Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Connected Advisor podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Van Pelt, co-founder and CEO of Milemarker. Today, we have a special episode where we've compiled excellent ideas from our previous guests. In case you missed it, you get an opportunity to hear from some of the great conversations over the past 12 months. When I talk to ambitious firms, they're all prioritizing how they recruit and develop talent. Today, we are going to hear from 4 great firms on how they tackle different aspects of the war for talent. We will hear from Seth Merrill from the Norden Group, Jeff Casey from CG Financial, Alex Goss from New Edge, and Patrick Sweeny from Apella Wealth. Seth Merrill, partner at the Norden Group, speaks passionately about the Norden Group's future. We caught him as the business is transitioning from one stage of the journey to another, where he's going through the transition that so many of you go through, from advisor to CEO. You can hear him speak about what roles he is prioritizing as the firm grows. And you can also hear how he is finding and developing talent as the needs expand. Here is Seth Merrill. Talk to me a little bit about what it looks like to recruit and develop talent at the Norden Group, because I know that's a challenge most RIAs like you are facing.
It's interesting that you asked that because I don't know if I have the answer. We grew so fast that we're like, oh no, that's probably our next step is where we're at in our growth, is adding some more talent on the support staff roles so that the advisors can kind of move forward to take their next step in the growth. We're lucky in the sense that our office is located in Provo, Utah, and there's a university, Utah Valley University. So we're lucky in the sense that we have a school in our backyard. Some of our employees right now are from that program. And so now that we're kind of at this precipice of needing to add more support staff, our plan is to continue to use UVU as kind of a feeder program, and we participate in their networking and events and stuff like that. We're actually in the process of building this out, Kyle, of centralizing some of our support staff for our outer offices because we have the resource of Utah Valley University right in our backyard.
That's awesome. And again, UVU has a great financial planning program, all of that stuff, but you are still getting people who maybe this might be their first job coming out of college, maybe a couple internships. So I'm sure there's still a lot of like having to develop them, having to train them. How are you thinking about that? Are you guys trying to build out like a quote unquote formal training program? And I know you're right in the middle of it, so I kind of want to catch you while you're in the middle of it.
Yeah, we've got all these ideas. You caught us right smack in the middle of it. Our plan is to hire I don't know what the official role is going to be, but someone with financial planning experience that can oversee training the support staff. Our next hire is probably that role, to bring someone in that can full-time dedicate their time and efforts to developing that talent, whether it's out of UVU or whether it's someone with their first job. Just because I still have a personal practice and most of our senior advisors have a personal practice. And so there's a high likelihood that I'm going to be continuing to graduate some of my personal clients to some of these support staff so that I can continue to get leaner, to lend my skill set to helping this person train our support staff. But we feel at this point that we need to hire a full-time position before we start bringing on more staff. Yeah. Because up to this point, Kyle, if I'm being honest, my support staff that handles my personal clients has been the training support, but it's maxing them out. We just can't afford to do that anymore because we will lose, our personal clients will lose the personal touches that they've become accustomed to.
I love it. That's why we like having these conversations on the podcast, right? Because, sometimes when you're removed from it a little bit, which is great. I love getting that perspective and experience too. But sometimes when you're removed from it a little bit, you forget what it was like to be in the middle of it. But it's great every once in a while to catch someone who's like, yeah, we're going through this right now. And here's how we're thinking about it.
I haven't forgot. I think about it like daily right now.
But as you're talking, actually, that last statement you just made about having to hire more support staff because your clients are going to start to not receive the experience that you think is what the Norden Group should be putting forward highlights, I think, one of the single biggest challenges that is talked about a little bit, but maybe not enough for folks like you who you start building this great practice. And then all of a sudden 11 advisors want to join. Well,
Yeah.
your business overnight goes from being the practice that you run with your advisors and your partners run to you've got two businesses, right? You've got your business, which is running advice for your clients, which by the way is near and dear to you. A lot of times people can't just say, I don't want to do that anymore. I'm going to give up all my clients to other people because, the sweat of your brow led you to building that. But by the way, you've also got a whole enterprise now that is, I have to build a platform for 11 advisors to be successful. I've got to run health insurance. I've got leases. I've got offices. I've got to recruit from UVU. I've got to do all of this stuff, which is completely outside of managing the households that have trusted Seth to be their advisor. It is great hearing Seth transparently speak about pursuing the future of the Norden Group. Maybe one of the best parts of being in one of these transition seasons is that it does end. Jeff Casey, president and partner at CG Financial Services, has come through the other side of this type of transition. The process of getting through that transition season involved spending weeks at a time in new offices. This was due to the priority of developing and providing opportunities for his team. Here is a clip of Jeff reflecting on that season. I think what I'm mostly curious about is CG was already in a pretty successful place. You have a family, you have a ton going on. What was it about Charlotte? What was it about that move that was so vital to CG and to what you all were doing that you sacrificed and invested so much personally in kind of making sure that all went really well and went smoothly?
We've always believed in investing in young people. We recruit from universities, local, people coming out of college, others that are young in their careers. We really focused on personal development. And so at the time, we had a lot of young people who wanted to be successful advisors, who wanted to grow within their roles in the business. And as you can probably remember back when we went through the Great Recession, which was that 2007, 8, 9, 10 period, Michigan was one of those front and center areas that was really struggling. And, we felt it firsthand, a very manufacturing based industry historically in Michigan. Michigan was going to have to reinvent itself and really provide a new landscape for growth into the future. And myself and Tony had a lot of dialogue in regards to our growth model, where we were planning to go, how we wanted to grow as we move forward, because, we truly believe that if you're not growing, there's a good chance you're going the other direction. And so at the time we started to look in states that were growing. And it just so happened, you looked in that Southeast corridor down through Virginia and North Carolina and South Carolina, and even down into Florida and Georgia, there was a lot going on from a growth perspective. And we were able to meet some people down through that area, and the opportunity came where we had a couple unique opportunities to do that. And it was natural that we had a few key people that had family and friends down in that area. So we made the decision to make that leap. I had a long talk with my family. It was very difficult on my wife. We had young kids at the time, and she was teaching. So, trying to maintain her career while also spending more time trying to manage the kids with me being on the road so much, but we felt it was important. We had close personal relationships with the people in our business, and we wanted to make it work. And so I took the initiative to spend that time. We worked with Becky Keenan, who was the individual we bought that business from. She was a great resource to us in the area. It was a small business at the time, and it really created an opportunity for us to get a footprint into the North Carolina market. And, although I spent a lot of time down there, I built a ton of relationships with the clients and people down there. We've got a great group of people that are working down there now in that office location for us. We've expanded into Wilmington, North Carolina, where we've got another office. So, it allowed us to put some roots in an area that we thought was a good diversifier. It was a great spot that had very similar characteristics and culture to what we know in the Midwest. And so it seemed to be a great fit for us to continue to grow and trying to work towards, the future we wanted to see happen.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, man. I appreciate it. If my count is correct, you have 8 offices now. So when you opened that one, or you acquired that one in Charlotte, was that your first non-headquarter location, or where is that in the story?
Yeah. So the first location we acquired was back in 1999, and that was in Midland, Michigan. So you're aware we have office in Williamston, Michigan. We also have a Hazlet location here in Lansing, but Midland was the first. And then as we moved down, we also had an office in Munising, Michigan, which is up in the UP where my partner Tony's from. And now we have a Marquette location up there. But Charlotte came shortly after, I believe, the Midland and Munising offices.
Okay.
And then shortly after our North Carolina location was our Richmond, Virginia location.
So is the plan to keep expanding by opening new offices and things like that? Is that what's next for CG?
I think the first and foremost objective is to grow in the locations we're in. So both organically and inorganically, if the opportunity presents itself. And then strategically, as we look at other opportunities for new offices, we have a vetted process that we'll go through to identify, does it fit the culture? Does it fit the type of clients we serve? Is it a good fit for our growth model and where we want to go moving forward? And if so, that's definitely something we'll consider. And we also, though, have our affiliate network where in a lot of cases, right, we're able to partner with firms and actually provide services to help them grow and continue to maintain their independence. And we believe, that's kind of an area that strategically, I think there's a opportunity in the marketplace for us to grow at a rapid rate, and it's extremely scalable.
You can tell that Jeff was invested in his team's success.
This podcast is brought to you by Turncast. We make game-changing content for fintech and financial services companies. Learn more at turncast.com.
Hey, this is Judd Mackerel. Thanks for listening to this show. I just wanted to ask you one question. What's your technology and data strategy for 2025? If you can't clearly answer that question, I'd love to talk. We are spending some specific time with select firms to really go deep and help you clearly answer that question. We believe that it's one of the things that often holds back firms from really achieving their potential, from really achieving growth, and really getting a lot of the things in the position that they need to be. The things that are holding up the way that you scale, like your workflows, how you manage data around your revenue, how you report all of that to your advisors, and getting clarity in all those things. I'm sure there's a lot of very specific things to your business that are really important as well. And we'd love to talk about that. If this is interesting to you, hit me up with an email. My direct email is jud@milemarker.co. And I'd love to hear from you, hear what you're working on, hear what your strategy is, and see if there's an opportunity for us to help you get more clear on that strategy in 2025. Thanks.
Alex Goss, managing partner at New Edge, has colorful insights on how the industry used to train talent. Alex points out that there was an investment in technical and sales skills, but with really low success rates. Being dissatisfied with that experience, he looked to the other industries outside of our space for inspiration. Here is Alex on how he could see the industry moving for better outcomes for firms and employees.
How are you thinking about, is in the seat that you sit in, helping build career paths for people who want to get into this industry and this space at New Edge?
I think exactly what you said about the opening a phone book and dialing for dollars. I mean, that traditional path is dead in my mind. I mean, I guess it can work. But I mean, even if you think about when it wasn't dead, I remember when I was sitting in my training class at Wells, there was like 200 of us in the class, and it was a great training program because it was the A.G. Edwards training program. But it was dialing for dollars, door knocking, all those things. They looked across the room and said, look to your left, look to your right. Almost none of you will be here. The success rate is only, out of this 200, maybe 3 might have a career, long term. I don't know if that ever worked. I mean, 3 out of 200 for a career. I mean, that's not really, a successful mantra. So very similar to like the medical community and the legal community, I think our industry is maturing and more analogous to those than basically what effectively was door-to-door sales, selling Cutco knives is probably like the old way it worked. I mean, it takes associateship, it takes mentorship, it takes time to become a really successful advisor. I used to joke, like, by the time I got out of training and passed all my licenses, was in production, I knew just about enough to really screw somebody's life up, but thank God I was able to buy a practice and be part of my dad's team and had like the infrastructure there to also be mentored and learn from other advisors. But just going at it your own, like some people can do it, and a lot of people have, and it's very impressive for those that have done it. But I think the future now, and as you see kind of the average age of the advisor being so much older and books being transitioned over to younger advisors, I mean, really the future now is more often joining an established practice becoming part of the succession. Think about the law firm, like the partner track, right? Like you start as an associate, you work for 3 or 4 or 5 years. The really good people get to junior partner or partner level. That's the path. The income potential is still the same through that path. But I think the quality of advisors that generates is much higher. To be honest, I think the barrier to entry into this space is way too low. Passing a Series 7 should not be the barrier to entry. It should be passing that, getting other designations, working under mentorship and leadership of other successful fiduciary type advisors for multiple years before you're able to really stand on your own 2 feet. So yeah, I think what we're doing and largely where the industry is going is there's a path for other advisors. It's not a get rich quick path, maybe like it used to be presented. And I think that was the problem of the industry before is you could make $500,000 in 2 years if you can call every grandma in your town and get them to give you their rollover money. Like, that's not a good strategy. It should be a little bit more long-term in nature. But the income potential is still the same. But I think the quality of advice and service you give to clients and the help you provide clients ends up being higher through what's going on now.
Man. Yeah, great answer. Well stated. All right, let's talk a little bit about how you are structuring an environment, for all of that to happen, right? So I think in order to have tracks like that, you have to be a growing firm. This is something I've talked a handful of times about on this podcast and off the podcast with other people is you have these wonderful lifestyle practices, incredible firms, businesses that I'm sure firms like New Edge would want to buy. But the challenge there is, there's not a lot of quote unquote upward mobility, right? Because there's just not that many roles or positions or things. Like you have to get into a firm that is growing, adding headcount, creating opportunity that way. So, what is New Edge's growth story? How did you go from 29 to 13? I know some of it's inorganic. I know some of it's organic, but what do you think is working? Why are you able to create an environment where people can come in, be apprenticed, grow, and achieve success on the track you just talked about?
I think it's the niche that we're playing in has driven a lot of that. So if you think about the space out there and all the different competitors and really, some really good companies, most of them, if not all of them, I like to think we're pretty different, are focused on helping advisors become successful, right? There's something that a firm has, whether it's a relationship with a CPA network or, a marketing platform or a client acquisition strategy through a custodial referral program, or so like you come to us, we're going to help you get clients. If it works, it works. I don't think it's necessarily always that easy, but some of those firms are doing a good job of that and driving new clients to advisors. But if you look at firms like my personal practice before we started this company and a lot of the practices that joined us, like respectfully, we didn't need help finding clients. We were already good at it. We had our niche. We knew how to find clients. We knew how to service clients. What we needed was infrastructure and platform and resources that really gave us more time to execute on our already successful growing strategy and plan. And there really was a gap in the industry for teams like ours. So we call them kind of elite, successful, growing advisors. That's what we started our company and back in 2014 to focus on is, successful, already established practices. Let's create a home for them where we can use kind of our collective scale to give everybody more resources, better pricing, more time to do what we're already good at doing. Whereas everybody else was kind of focused on, hey, are you struggling to find clients and be a successful advisor? Come to us, we'll make you successful, right? Like good for them, great model in that world. Already successful teams didn't need that. So that's what we focused on. So the growth that we've had has been in recruiting and acquiring firms that are already successful, that are growing. They're not at the tail end of their career. You mentioned lifestyle practices. We're not attracting lifestyle practices. We're attracting growing small enterprises that are usually a little bit more complex, have more staff members, are doing more innovative, more quote unquote risky from a business risk standpoint, not from a client standpoint, but investing in their business, making risk-based investments and how to grow their firms. So they're growing faster than the average advisor, which means what do they need? They need younger apprenticeship type advisors to help continue to fill in the backside of the business and grow with them. So it's by focusing on those growing, larger, kind of more successful teams It's not really like our mission hasn't been to help younger advisors come into the business. It's been kind of organically our growing bigger teams need younger, entry-level advisors to help them continue to grow and scale. That's created this natural, I think, really healthy system of growth.
Alex has great points about the industry maturing beyond just sales training. Looking at industries like law and how they develop their talent to become a partner is pretty thought-provoking. Patrick Sweeny, CEO of Apella Wealth, took inspiration from a partner firm they acquired for a program similar to a residency. Most of us are familiar with this from the medical field. Here is how Apella has taken multiple ideas and turned them into practical paths for career success for their team. Here's Patrick Sweeny.
So my notes also said, which I guess this makes sense a little bit, but you all created a residency program, I guess probably to help with promoting within or with helping people. But when I hear residency program, I think of like the medical field. Is that where that's inspired from?
Exactly. So I can't give you a fully detailed history of it. I'm with you. When we acquire a partner firm, we look at them top to bottom to see what they're doing well, because oftentimes you're going to put them onto your tech stack. You're going to put them onto certain platforms that you have. We're a national firm, and the firms that we've acquired come under our name, come under our tech stack, come under our philosophy. We can talk about that in a moment. Yep. But to your question, one of the firms that we acquired out in Huntington Beach, California, run by Evelyn Zolan, who's been in the business a number of years, well-respected advisor. Evelyn came up with the idea. She and her husband, Mark, came up with the idea of bringing on young potential advisors, prospective advisors, and giving them a 3-year residency to train them and have them work at the firm. Everybody knows that at the end of that 3 years, they may or may not receive an offer. If they're doing a great job and the firm has the ability to, they'll make them an offer. And Evelyn did this, for a few years before she joined Apella. And when she joined Apella, that was one of the things we loved. We had already had a similar program on Apella, but it wasn't as well defined as hers. So we kind of took the two, put them together, using mostly the ideas that she and her team had come up with. So now we have young college graduates. What's different now also, and you're probably aware of this, is colleges now are providing degrees in financial planning. These young people can sit for the CFP exam right after graduation, which I think is wonderful, right? So we're getting these young CFPs right out of school, and they'll spend time with the paraplanners, they'll spend time with portfolio analysts, they'll spend time with client service folks. And they get this nice, well-rounded view of our business. And then they start sitting in on meetings with the senior advisors. They start interacting with clients. And by the end of the residency, they're ready to take on their own clients. And we have this nice organic way of helping them start in the business, which people like me certainly never had, and I'm sure most of your guests never had. We had to go build it ourselves. Now we have advisors who will be thinking about retiring or thinking about at least culling some of their client base so that they have more free time. And we have young, experienced advisors who can start talking to those folks, and they can start building their business with clients that have already been with the firm for a number of years.
It's so unique. For some reason, this has become a topic I've become relatively passionate about, but it's about, onboarding people into the industry now in a way that, there's so many different ways to do it. Whereas like you're talking about the early days of this industry, it was like, here's a phone book,
Exactly.
Go see if you can find some clients. If you can't find clients, then go find another job, right? You were either an advisor who could rainmake, or you were a back office employee. And those were your only two options in this space. And it seems like people have created all kinds of different ones. What's unique to me about this residency program is, I've heard of the diamond team approach or the junior advisor approach or things like that. It sounds like, this is empowering people with a little bit more responsibility, the same way that a resident would in a hospital. I mean, they're real doctors, they're doing real doctor work, but they're still under the tutelage of someone who, is experienced and is guiding them and is helping them. And I just think what a great way to onboard people into providing meaningful advice, because you're not completely thrown out to the wolves and saying, hey, go figure it out. But also you do get to run with some stuff there and actually be a real advisor and on real accounts and doing real planning. So that's a very unique approach.
Thank you for joining us today. We know the idea of recruiting and developing talent is top of mind for leaders at world-class firms. We hope these ideas from 4 other excellent leaders and connected advisor guests has inspired you. I hope these insights are going to help you get off to an incredible 2025 that your holiday season was restful and filled with great memories, time with family, and relaxation. Because at the end of the day, it's all about the journey. It's how you get there and how much you enjoy it. So from Kyle Van Pelt at Milemarker, enjoy every mile.